Hi guys, just thought I would do a quick little bonus video for you here. In my last video I mentioned briefly that there was a kind of extended backstory and biography of Slackjaw that you could access, and there's actually also one for Granny Rags as well. So I just thought I'd go ahead and read that content for you if you're interested in that sort of thing. When you purchased way back when Dishonored was first coming out, there were a couple of pre-order bonuses that you could get. And one of them was called the Backstreet Butcher Pack for the Cutthroat Assassin. And it included some extra bone charms and also a book called Early Life and Times, Slackjaw. Or it's been, I guess, renamed Early Life and Criminal Record. If you buy Dishonored now, basically you're going to get the definitive edition that includes all of this DLC. I didn't get it because I got it when it first came out. That's fine with me. But I just thought I'd go ahead and read this content for you. And by the way, all of this can be found on the fandom wiki. It's not like hidden information or anything. I just thought I'd throw it in here, kind of just for fun. Right? Early Life and Criminal Record, Slackjaw. Excerpt from a series of letters sent by a member of the Bottle Street Gang. You want the chinwag on Slackjaw? What he was like when we was young, before he got his name? Oh, he's got a cool head now. But it weren't always like that in the days before he was boss of the Bottle Street Gang. Time was, young Slackjaw wasn't such a reasonable man. Like most of us, he grew up on the streets, running with a pack of ragamuffins and avoiding the law, pinching whatever he needed, dark-haired and dark-eyed, smoking a pipe by the age of 10. For them born into the brothels or coming up from the orphanages, it was either the gangs or working with the mudlarks, and no one wants that. Some got pressed into the Navy or put down in the mines run by the Pendleton or the Boyle families. As hard as it was on the streets, as hungry as we all got, at least we was free. By the time we weren't little uns anymore, Slackjaw was one to watch, usually calling the shots when we took down a farmer's cart or sidewalk street vendor. He'd come up with the plan, give everyone some part to play, and decide on the split. Most of us just went along because we'd learned fast that we made out better like that. More food, more coin. Plus, none of us wanted to deal with Slackjaw when he was in a rage. He worked on a couple big jobs with Black Sally across town, and that was enough to get the attention of the other bosses. He wasn't just a street kid anymore. Now he was an up-and-comer, which meant trouble. Another guy who fancied himself as such was Mike the Fish, who was working his way up running the protection racket among the factory women. One fine evening, we're all taking in a body show in the theater house. Mike the Fish and his lot are there in the cheap seats too, just down the aisle from us. Mike gets a wild idea. He wasn't big on planning, and he throws a heavy ceramic spittoon at Slackjaw, hits him square in the face and breaks his jaw. We look to see if there's going to be a blood brawl, but Slackjaw just points at the door and we all leave, with Mike laughing at our backs. Waking up the next day, without telling us why, Slackjaw motions for all of us to follow. He still can't say a word, so we just come along. We stop at the docks, and Slackjaw buys, actually pays coin for it, a heavy chain covered in hooks. It's for fishing in the deep, something you'd attach to a long line off the side of a ship. It's about 4 feet, made of thick links, and there are shark hooks coming off it at different angles. Slackjaw's got that thing wrapped around his left arm, dangling at his side. Not sure how he knew where Mike the Fish was staying, but when we reach his girl's house, Slackjaw throws a bottle through the window just like that. It's almost noon. There's a bunch of screaming inside, and Mike pokes his head out, looking wide-eyed and baffled. When he sees Slackjaw out in the street, a look comes over his face that still gives me the willies. Pure murder. Mike comes out the side door, bellowing like a blood ox, holding a cleaver, heading straight for Slackjaw. When they come together in the street, Slackjaw spins and the shark hooks bite deep into Mike's arm and shoulder. He screams, but Slackjaw holds onto the chain. He's standing there with his jaw broken, clenched tight, with the chain wrapped around his left arm, hooks sunk into Mike the Fish, just knifing him as fast as he can. Mike couldn't fight very well, hooked like that and using his left hand, but he was a big guy and it took a lot of stabbing before he went to his knees. Everyone was cheering at first, but then we all went quiet. It just kept going and going, until finally it was just Mike the Fish blubbering, crying like a baby, and the sound of Slackjaw's knife. When it was over, and here's the brilliant part, Slackjaw took out a note and stuck to Mike's face with a nail. It just said, "If you want a job, come to Bottle Street." Slackjaw didn't talk right for a couple of months, but word spread fast. By the end of the year, once we had a sizable gang going, He sent out letters to the other bosses, telling them that he was running a brand new crew over on Bottle Street. Most of them laughed or beat up the guys who delivered the letters. Green-Eyed Trish even came back missing a thumb. But apparently Slackjaw was expecting that kind of reaction and had a backup plan. A week later, 4 of the bosses were dead. Seemed like a series of unfortunate events, but everyone knew better. One shot dead by the watch while standing in the middle of a meat market. Another slipping and falling into the water, out cold. One of the older bosses found in bed with his belly opened wide and a Tivian pear stuffed into his mouth. Still not sure what that meant. And Sheila Barnsworth was found bubbling in a cauldron of hot wax. Slackjaw sent out another set of letters. Offers to the underbosses telling them they'd be treated fair as peers. He even sent Green-Eyed Trish with one of the letters. All of the underbosses accepted. After spilling the guts of his main competition, Slackjaw went in for stabilizing his business, real neat-like, calling in favors, smoothing things over, giving everyone a little bit of coin or drink as a bonus, showing them what he could be like as a boss. So everything got quiet, which always makes the boys of the City Watch nervous, of course. Word went out among the Royal Spymaster Snitches, the responsible citizens group they called themselves, telling everyone working in a shop or sweeping off the front steps of their homes to keep watchful eyes for Slackjaw and his men, trying to suss out what they were up to and what had just happened. But Slackjaw ain't stupid. He greased a few palms among the shopkeepers and the watch too, telling them that he was in town to stay and that things would be run properly from now on, without so much blood. He was finally a real boss, ready to settle into the business of moving whiskey, running the hound fights, and offering up the ladies and gentlemen of the night, if you take my meaning. Then the plague came. At first, it seemed like a good thing. A few people got sick, and everyone wanted to buy those potions, from Sokolov or Piero Health Elixir, or Spiritual Remedy, they call them. Slackjaw told me he saw an opportunity. We already had an old whiskey factory with a still, where we could water the stuff down and sell it discounted. Doing the same with Sokolov's elixir was a smart plan. Pretty soon everybody in the slums was sick, and business was good. But after a while, there were so many people down with the plague that everyone got scared. Everybody started acting real nasty, and everything fell apart. When people can't work, they don't have the coin for elixir, watered down or pure. When the Empress died, it seemed like Dunwall would slide into the void. Spymaster Burroughs took over, and the watch started using all that new Sokolov technology. Watchtowers, tall boys, and them arc pylons. They put up a wall of light across Clavering Boulevard and cracked down hard. But Slackjaw surprised us again. Instead of leaving town on a boat bound for Morley or one of the other isles, he stayed and kept it all together. We get as much elixir to fight off the plague as the City Watch, with their taxes and rations, and that's kept us alive, so far. Crowley, Bottle Street Gang. Okay, so there's a little bit of how Slackjaw got his name and his reputation. Also, in certain special order packs, there's something called the Dishonored Tarot. It's a tarot deck. You can use it to play. Supposedly, you can use it to play the game Nancy. It also includes some characters from the game. And card number 9 is Slackjaw, and it's titled The Urchin Prince. This is referencing the fact, as the heart tells you, that he is in fact the son of nobility and a prostitute. There's another pre-order bonus called the Arcane Assassin Pack for the Dark Assassin. This also includes a few extra bone charms, and also a book called The Journal of Granny Rags. And I'll go ahead and read that right now as well. Excerpt from the Ramblings of a Street Denizen. Of course I'll tell you, dearie. I won't keep any secrets from you in the end. All the dreary days of my life are like the windows of a house. From the kitchen I can see out into the garden where the leaves and stalks are brown and bug-eaten. You can see a little lump of dirt where something was wrapped in a blanket and laid to rest along the rows of twisting vines. The front room looks out into the street where the neighbors are all setting fire to their homes, barricading themselves inside, warm and snug, dearie. Don't forget about the bedroom, either. It sees into a dreary alley where hooligans are playing at a game with an old man. The first two are hitting him with sticks, and the girl with them is kicking at his dry old ribs. Oh, to have those bones, to boil them in a pot. No one lives in my house any more, dearie. No one you'd want to meet. When I lived there with my husband, we were fine, fine people. Vera more, everyone would say. Your house is as grand as the Boyle Manor. Better even. Your dinners are lavish, and your parties are the best. When that young Sokolov came to paint my portrait, I was nearly still in my prime. Radiant, he said, and he was just barely a man, so young, painting all the best people across the land. Everyone wanted a portrait by his hand, all my friends. I was the only one, dearie, wet with his paint glistening on the canvas for a pretty coin. But it wasn't all parties and paintings. My husband and I weren't always at home. No, we traveled together, he and I, to the far ends of the Isles, beyond even, all the way to the red cliffs of Pandisia, to dig in the rock and crawl through the caves, holding up candles and squinting at the walls. Many precious things we came upon, but none so precious as the boy with the black eyes, dearie. All those marks and bones, carved so deep and polished so bright. I brought the old bones home, hid them from my dear husband. Then I learned to boil them and carve them myself. They made such good presents, dearie. The little mute boy took them home. He loved them so. All the time he came back with new bones for me, holding them up so I could see it in his eyes, even though his tongue was still. Granny, his eyes would say to me, carve these bones for me. Make me another present. And he went so far, all the way to Dunwall Tower. The royal headsman himself now. My little mute boy and his shiny, shiny sword. Better bones were what I needed, you see. Better bones to carve and polish, scrape and glean. My dear old husband was always tired. I made him soup, and then he was sick. Better bones was all. For my little mute boy, carved in the name of the one with the black eyes. And after my husband was gone, given away as birthday gifts, I didn't want to live there any more. So now I'm old, and I don't have many to give my presents to. It's sifting through the garbage for Granny Rags and feeding the little birdies that gather at my feet. No one wants to have tea, dearie. Especially those rude louts on Bottle Street. Slackjaw and his boys, always meddling with an old woman, just trying to make her way. In the end we'll be together with him. You and me in the dreary night with the stars above and below. And always the one with the black eyes, dear.